gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's March the 27th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, I thought we would start out today talking about the offensive line because it's a position, obviously, of great interest. You got Matt Lee and Javion Cohen have hit the exit switch and have gone off to try their fate in the NFL draft. A little misguided, I might add, in my opinion. I do not think they should have left. I think they should still be part of this Miami offensive line. And then we would be talking about this position as like an absolute crazy position of strength. But we had a chance to spend some time with offensive line coach Alex Mirabal yesterday. And man, I walked away from that 12-minute interview feeling pretty fired up, quite honestly. I mean, I was like, I want more of Alex Mirabal. I mean, this whole nonsense of being able to speak to him once in the spring and once in the fall, and that being our only opportunities to speak to Mirabal, it's just not enough, man. This guy is one of the best talkers in the program, just a high octane guy. He would fire anybody up if there's anybody who has any doubts about the Miami Hurricanes, including you, Matt Shodell. He would light you up and get you stoked, and there would be fireworks coming out of your ears because this guy is a guy that brings absolute enthusiasm to his job every single day. And so in talking about the development of the offensive line in spring practice, he seems very encouraged. Not that he's likely to be the opposite. Quite. Let's be frank here. I mean, he should feel good. It's his job to develop these guys, but he seems to feel like they will have 8, 9 guys that they can rely on going into the fall that they can roll out there on game day. And I will be the first to admit that is better than I expected when they lost Matt Lee and Javion Cohen. But we're hearing really good things about Samson Okinola and his development as a possible guard or tackle. We're hearing good things about Matthew McCoy. So that's a good development. He's been a little bit off and on, and a couple other guys as well. So Matt, we had a chance to dive deep into OL yesterday, and what were your thoughts that you came away from after listening to Coach Mirabal?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Long-time listener. Wish I was a first-time caller. But Mirabal he's always a character, almost a caricature. I mean, he's going on and on about the circle of trust. Like he's just watched way too many Meet the Fockers movies. I mean, trust. Who can I trust? What does trust mean? Trust isn't give me your car keys, or whatever. Like, I mean, enough with the trust, Mirabal, okay? We know what it means. You don't have to tell us 50 different ways what trust is and what trust means and the how, what, where, when, whatever. I mean, he's a little over the top with some of this stuff. And he reminds me a little bit of Don Solinger, where what he says sort of you have to take a little bit with a grain of salt. There's no starters until the Florida game. Everyone's playing for the first team, apparently, according to him. I mean, maybe he is, going crazy and literally playing 3 different first team left tackles in practices and 3 different right team first tackles in practices and moving Jalen Rivers to guard, during practices, like whatever. But at the end of the day, he knows as well as everybody else that you need a cohesive 5 starting offensive linemen. And it's nice to have 8, 9, 20 guys you trust, but really you just need 5 that you trust to stay healthy, which is what happened last year. He didn't say that because he doesn't want to say that, but that's the truth.
He wants them to stay motivated to keep developing. I mean, I don't blame him.
And then the other weird thing was, someone pointed out, how all 5 guys started every game because they never got hurt, and he says they got hurt. What are you talking? They were injured all year. I mean, what's he even talking about? Like, what coach says that? Just say, yeah.
It's a badge of honor for offensive line coaches. Yeah. If their guys are out there playing hurt, they'll pound their chest, man. That's a badge of honor.
These guys, these coaches, their definition of toughness is playing hurt. Nothing else. So if a player doesn't get hurt all year, he's not tough. Apparently, the definition of being tough is you have to be hurt. And then you have to play through it. Then you can be tough. If you don't ever get hurt, you are the softest, weakest player that I've ever heard of. I'm talking to you, Cam Ward. Okay, apparently, Cam Ward is just very soft. I don't think he's ever played hurt. And so he doesn't get to prove his toughness. But in all seriousness, like, I think this offensive line is going to be better than last year's. I know I made a mistake on the message board once, and I said, I don't remember if I called it a dominant offensive line last year, whatever word I used. I apologize profusely. It was compared to the prior year. And I think, last year, the run game, which, by the way, the running backs weren't off the charts good, but the running game averaged 5.1 yards a carry, which is perfectly good. I think that's fine. You want to be a little higher at a championship level, but for Miami coming from 3.7 yards per carry the year before, I'll take 5.1. And to go from allowing 36 sacks to 16 sacks, I mean, that's a huge, huge improvement. And so now that the key for this offensive line is to get even better, which nobody asked Mirabal, because he doesn't know yet. If you ask Mirabal, can this line be better than last year's line? He won't even answer that question. But if I put my Mirabal hat on and I am asked the question, will this offensive line be better than last year's offensive line, despite losing Javion Cohen and Matt Lee? My answer is yes, with a caveat. And that caveat is I'm not sure that what they think they got in Zach Carpenter is what they actually got in Zach Carpenter, because, people are hoping that when the games come on, he flips a switch, like a Casey Jones type of switch. Because when you talk to Zach Carpenter, it's like the exact polar opposite of what Matt Lee was. Matt Lee was this fiery leader in the middle of the line who demanded excellence. And from everything we can tell about Zach Carpenter is he's very quiet. Like, I'll tell you straight up, when he committed to Miami, I don't want to say I became friendly with his mother, but I mean, we corresponded a lot. His mother is a wonderful person, and we talked a lot. She begged him to do an interview with us. She was constantly like, I know this guy, he'll do a really nice story on you. Miami fans want to hear from you. He refused. Like, I don't think he has that, like he's not like Matt Lee. Okay. He's just not. For fans who think that it's hidden underneath that, and that in practices and games, he's this crazy, wild, hair everywhere Matt Lee type.
They don't like we offered Matt Lee an NIL deal and he turned it down.
Well, that's not, but that's because that's a whole different animal. That's because they don't need this. They don't need $50, Gary. They don't need your $50, okay? But the other thing there, and that's not a reflection of his play. It's a reflection of the type of leader he can be. Because Matt Lee quite clearly wasn't just an outstanding center, one of the best centers in the country for college football, but was also one of the best leaders I've seen at center on the offensive line in a long, long time at Miami. And I think that's just as important. And it's a little worrisome when you know that, Ryan Rodriguez is not, from what I hear, he's not far behind Zach Carpenter. Like, so you add it all up, and there will be a drop-off at center. That's my opinion, okay? There will be a drop-off at center. But the other positions, I think, more than make up for it, which is why I think it can be a better offensive line. Because if Zach Carpenter just holds his own, and, Mirabal's going on how he's ambidextrous, can snap with both arms. And, when we wrote the story about Zach when he first came to Miami, we talked about the injury and at his prior, Indiana stop, and how at the time he had an injured right arm. So he had to snap lefty at center. So now he can do either hand, and he does prefer lefty. But when you look at the other position, Inez Cooper, I think looks better than last year. Okay. Jalen Rivers is just as steady as they come. I mean, he doesn't even need to get better. He's already a dominant left tackle or guard, whatever you want him to play. Francis Mago is only going to be better when he comes back, especially without shoulder injuries anymore, right? He got them both repaired, strengthened, and he'll be better than last year. And then, I think the fifth starter, by the way, I'm not ruling out them going into the portal again, because that's just what Mario likes to do. If an offensive lineman, specifically a guard, comes along in the portal that Mario likes, they will go get him. They don't care if they, have to shoot someone else into the portal from their own team. Like, they'll do that because offensive line is very important to Mario. But with that said, I think Samson Okunlola will be the fifth starter if push comes to shove. And I think if push comes to shove, he may wind up, his best position is tackle. And it wouldn't shock me if Jalen Rivers wound up at guard in that scenario, because Jalen Rivers in the NFL, I think, is a guard. I just think he is. And Alex Mirabal, he basically intuited, is that a word? Intuited as much yesterday in his meeting with the media, when he said he wants to use Jalen at guard in practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. because otherwise it's a disservice to Jalen. Essentially saying that Jalen in the pros, they need to consider him as an offensive guard, not just an offensive tackle, because otherwise he'll drop down.
Well, most of these linemen in the NFL now can swing between positions.
Yeah, and that's fair.
That's what he's getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think his ultimate position will be guard in the NFL, and I think Alex Mirabal knows that.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyways, so those 5 guys, and then you got better depth. I think Matthew McCoy will be really good depth-wise. I'm hoping Luis Cristobal has been with the first team. I would like to say that. I know they don't want to say depth chart stuff, but he's been with the first team every single practice we've watched the entire spring. Every rep with the first team is Luis Cristobal.
He's Mario's secret weapon.
Yeah. So
he's there.
He's
there to light a fire under everybody, on the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, if he's a starter, then I just give up. I don't even know.
I don't think he'll be a starter in the fall. I think he'll be a utility backup. But what Mirabal's doing is, he's preparing these guys for the National Football League. He's also preparing himself for injuries in the fall. And you mentioned Jalen Rivers as it pertains to Okinola. Don't be shocked if Francis Magoa goes to guard and Samson Okinola is the right tackle.
Well, that's actually, let me interrupt, which I never do. That's a great point, because I will tell you right now, guys, Magoa is more of a guard body type than Okinola, and that's actually fair. That's a fair point. That could happen too. Yeah, that could be another option. 100%.
I'll go so far as to predict that will happen. A prediction. Yeah, I will go out on the limb there and predict that will happen. And I think Jalen Rivers will stay.
What's more likely to happen? What's more likely to happen? That or Ja'Carri Brown playing receiver for Gary Ferman's team this fall?
Definitely
more likely.
Definitely that. Ja'Carri looked a little bit better in practice yesterday. I mean,
he still great. Yesterday was the best I've seen him look. He looked fantastic.
Nice throws. Yeah, I mean, he still had some moments where you say, "What the hell was that?" I mean, I'm not going to dispute that, but he had as good a practice when we were out there yesterday as I've seen him have.
You never see him display touch like he showed touch yesterday for the first time that I can remember on multiple balls. Beautiful.
He's getting better. He's definitely getting better.
When you look at him too, he looks like an NFL. You look at him, he's an NFL quarterback. If you just look at him, and I think there was a podcast with Ja'Cory Harris.
Cam Ward. You watch Cam Ward throw.
I'm talking about I'm not talking about when they throw, Gary. I'm talking about physically looking at the look test. The look test, he looks every part of an NFL quarterback, and he has the arm strength. I mean, it's just the other stuff he's got to clear up.
Well, it's just his accuracy is just not consistent.
If you look at Ja'Cory and if you look at Cam, and you just pick out your grandmother or somebody who knows nothing about college football, and you say which of these two players would you guess, if you had to bet your life on it, is an NFL?
You would pick Ja'Cory every time. No doubt.
NFL.
If Ja'Cory could throw like Cam Ward, you would have the prototypical NFL quarterback.
Yeah. Not prototypical. He'd be a Hall of Famer. He'd be a Hall of Famer.
That guy would be the top pick in the NFL draft.
There's no doubt about it.
If you took Ja'Cory's athletic frame and body and Cam Ward's passing skills, you would have the number 1 pick in the draft without question. Yeah. That's how good Cam Ward is slinging the ball around the practice field, and I just I watch him every day. I just can't. I mean, I love the trajectory. I love the way he controls the trajectory of his passes. And I was watching Reese Poppenberger yesterday follow him in drills, and I'm thinking to myself, Reese's arm is good enough, but he needs to learn from Cam Ward about how you control trajectory on throws to get the ball from point A to point B the way you want it to. Cam Ward's as good as anybody I've seen in that regard. He is. He absolutely has mastered that aspect of throwing the football. The last guy that I remember watching up close that had that, and when he was, this guy happened to be coming out of high school. I saw him at one of the camps before he got to Clemson. That was Trevor Lawrence. He just had an uncanny ability to control the trajectory of his balls, and Cam Ward's not afraid to put some air under his throws. He will put air under his throws, but they always seem to come down in the right spot. Continue to be very impressed with Cam Ward. But
just so you know, everyone uses the Mahomes comparison because of the arm angles and the connection with Incarnate Word, which I think is a good comparison, because if you notice, and by the way, I know fans aren't at practice, but the early drills that are being run by Shannon Dawson, the quarterbacks now are being required to use different arm angles from sidearm all the way up to normal when they're throwing at the net now, because that is, that's Cam Ward's strength, but it's also something that's so important. And Shannon Dawson, I don't remember him doing it to this extent last year. And I think Shannon Dawson, having seen Cam Ward have so much success with it, realizes, like, you know what, we have athletic quarterbacks. Why don't we work on this? Because there are going to be times that you need to do the Patrick Mahomes sling it sidearm, or even underhand, or lefty, or whatever. Pat Mahomes does all that stuff. And that's, that is Cam Ward. And, yesterday, look, most of the media just talk about the positives, but I mean, there were a couple of passes yesterday that Cam Ward threw in the one-on-ones we saw where he sidearmed them and they got away from him, and they were in front, too far in front of the intended receiver. And that happens sometimes, but the fact that you even have that in your arsenal is something that Miami fans have never seen at Miami. And it pays so many dividends, because it depends. A guy like Cam Ward, who's not the tallest quarterback, he's tall enough, he's not the tallest. You need to find that window, especially in the ACC, where he has much bigger, wider offensive linemen and defensive linemen coming at him. Those windows to throw, those lanes to throw up front are not going to be as wide and as easy as he had previously. And, I was talking to another reporter who's also covered the team for forever. And I said to him, listen, this, because we were bored at practice yesterday a little bit during the early drills. I said, if I told you the over-under on Cam Ward fumbles this year is 8, are you taking the over or the under? He took the over. And he said, listen, Cam's got small hands. He says the ACC players, the defenders, are faster, stronger than what he faced previously at his last stop at Washington State. And they're going to be going after the ball constantly, knowing that Cam Ward likes to run with it and doesn't protect it particularly well. And it didn't seem like Shannon Dawson really has an answer for how to get him to protect it better, because, if you have small hands, you have small hands. So, like, he's not going to be running like this, like a fullback, right? That's just not what Cam Ward's going to do when he runs with the ball. And, that could be his, it's not an Achilles heel, it's a Tyler Van Dyke heel, we'll call it. So that could be his Tyler Van Dyke heel, is fumble problems. But other than that, there's just nothing he can't do really at an exceptionally high level.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to offensive line. I like what Mirabal's doing. I like the cross training that we're seeing going on. I love his enthusiasm about his guys. I am not yet as convinced that this O-line is going to be better than last year's. I'm going to have to see it first.
Shame on you, Ferman. Shame on you.
I mean, I want to see it. Like, I'm tired of
I'm
doing
going to don't steal my lines. That's my line. I say I want to see it. You don't get to say that.
I'm tired of overinflating the expectations.
That's what I said. Stop stealing my material. Be yourself.
I know I am. You're right. I am. But,
that's all I got. That's literally all I have. Those are my only two lines.
See it. We're going to get to see everything. Let me tell you something. September 1st, man. Like, to me, I love having that game at the beginning of the season. It's Judgment Day. We don't have to speculate. We don't have to make wild and crazy predictions. I mean, we'll do the usual obligatory, how many wins.
This is the truth, all right? This is the truth. It's impossible to tell right now. You got Nigel Kelly not participating. You got Akeem Messidor limited, not doing all the stuff. The defensive line yesterday, the defensive ends, the starters were Jared Harrison-Hunt and Elijah Alston, okay, who's really just a rotation pass rusher. The starting defensive tackles were Marley Cook and C.J. Clark, and behind them were Thomas Gore and Ahmad Moten. So, like, the line's not what it's going to be. So, while I think the offensive lines look very good, until we really see the entire Miami, because if they do well against the Miami defensive line, they're going to be just fine. But we probably won't know that until fall drills, quite honestly.
I mean, listen, I'm not making crazy predictions. I'm concerned enough about enough spots that
fair.
Yeah, I'm not going to get crazy about any of this stuff. But I will say this. I like what I'm seeing. I like the progress that the program is making, even if it's not as fast as any of us would like. I mean, we're going into year 3 of Mario. I don't think there's anybody out there that wasn't hoping that this team would win the ACC title this year. I mean, by year 3 of Mario. And maybe they will find a way to do it. The schedule is not daunting. Maybe they find a way. You got a quarterback now who's the best quarterback we've had here in a while. Maybe they find a way to make it happen. Okay. This season might be very similar to 2017 under Mark Richt, where they just found a way to win games, and they were sitting there 10-0, number 2 in the country, before they decided to have a King's Feast for Thanksgiving the night before the Pitt game, and just clearly didn't have it. up there at Pittsburgh in the season finale, and then got beat by Clemson in the ACC title game, and then lost the bowl game. It was just a horrible end to the season. But it would not surprise me if this team went on a similar type of run. But we just got to see. We got to see this stuff live and in person. We got to see it come together. I still think they need pieces. I want another good running back in the program. I want a number one wide receiver. We could sit there and have these debates on the message boards about Jacoby George. Great. It's fun and everything, but Jacoby George is the number one receiver. Okay, I don't have any problem saying that. I am not disrespecting Jacoby George. He's a quality contributor to a good team. Okay,
listen,
yes,
I shouldn't call you out. Somebody yesterday asked if we can get a picture of Markel Bell standing next to Mirabal. And I said, unfortunately, Mario has told the media they are not allowed to take photos of Mirabal standing next to Bell. So I'm a hater too. We're both just haters. Everyone hates us, and we're haters. There's just a lot of hate going all around. Hate all around. It's wonderful.
Speak for yourself. So just to close the book on the conversation about the offensive line, the cross training is good. Guys are looking good at different positions. Matt thinks it's going to be a better line than last year. I'm still in wait and see mode, but either way, it's going to be a good offensive line. And that's a continuation of the good things that Mirabal's doing up front. And so we will continue to watch that here the last couple weeks of spring, and then going into the fall. All right, there's other things to talk about, though, Matt. And we also had a chance to talk to the other Magoa, Francisco Magoa, yesterday, and he gave us an update on its injury status. You could tell he's itching to get back to 100%. But the thing that was kind of cool was he played with Cam Ward at Washington State. He knows Cam Ward inside and out, and he gave us 100% assurance, not that we needed it, but he thinks Cam Ward has the talent to take this team very, very, very far, Matt. And it's good. It's good validation. We can see it with our own eyes. The fans haven't really had a chance to see Cam Ward yet. We've seen him now several practices with our own eyes. It's the talent that he has is very, very obvious. But it's still nice to hear it from a guy that was his teammate at Washington State and get a little extra validation.
Yeah, it was weird because they were teammates, right? And the quote from Mawigoa was, "It's funny because I thought Cam Ward changed, but it's the same Cam Ward from watching his tape." Like, what does that mean? They were teammates. Like, let's watch his tape. He saw him in person. He played against him in practice. I don't understand what that even meant. It was like Francisco Mawigoa was like pretending he never played with the guy, which I thought was weird. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line thing that Mawigoa said, which is very unusual for him, because usually he's very mild in his assessments. He said he has the talent. This is on him talking about Cam Ward. He has the talent to take this team all the way. I assume that means all the way to Boise for a bowl game, but he didn't specify where he's going to take the team all the way. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. That was the cliffhanger from yesterday, was where is he going to take the team? We don't know. He wouldn't tell us. Francisco would not tell us.
But it's always good to talk to Francisco, and nice to hear that he feels like he is on the mend. So another guy, actually the guy that's been filling in for Francisco a lot in practice so far this spring, that we got to talk to was Popo Aguirre. And Matt, he's a guy that I really had high hopes for coming in, even as a true freshman. I thought he would play more last year than he ended up playing. But he needed time to adjust to college and wasn't all the way there yet. Now you could tell he is, just listening to him and then watching him on the practice field. He's moving around much better. He's showing an ability to swing between both linebacker positions. I honestly think Popo Aguirre is going to make a pretty sizable contribution to this defense this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now. But what's weird to me is he only played 38 reps on defense last year. I know he played special teams, but they're classifying him as a sophomore, which I know is not a big deal in today's day and age. Yeah, look at that. He played in every single game on special teams. So he barely made an impact on defense, but they obviously really needed his athleticism, size, speed on special teams. And he is with the ones right now, with obviously Francisco out. And the interesting thing, well, I don't know if it's interesting. It's interesting to me, is Miami lost, I think, almost 900 reps of backup experience, which is an enormous amount of reps, because even though they technically play a 4-2-5, with only 2 linebackers, they had these guys in a lot. Corey Flagg played a tremendous amount of reps. KJ Cloyd was a starter at the start of the year and played a tremendous amount of reps even after that, almost 50-50 with Wesley most of the year. And then, of course, Keontre Smith fizzled, but still played, certainly way more reps than Popo did. So with that said, they desperately need some of these young guys to step up, because unless you're going to rely on Chase Smith to all of a sudden stay injury-free and be what you always thought he could be, which he never has been, you only have Wesley Bassines and Francisco Mamigoa, and then a bunch of first-year and second-year guys, and that's it. And those second-year guys barely played last year, not a one of them, and one of them moved to defensive line. So, somebody's got to step up. Probably more than one guy has to step up, and it's good to see Popo, look the part right now. And they're talking about Cam Pruitt. He might be the other guy, honestly. Those 2 guys might be this year's KJ Cloyd and Corey Flagg. Like, you need a Will and a Mike who are going to be the guys that helps, eat up some reps, and there's no drop off in play. And it really wouldn't shock me at all. If I had to predict right now which 2 guys are filling those 900 reps of holes as the backups, backup / co-starters, essentially, because that's what these guys are considered sometimes from their linebackers coaches and from Lance Guidry. It's those 2. Like, those are the 2 guys who I think have looked the part the most so far.
All right. And also on the website today, we obviously have our usual assortment of recruiting stories. And one of those was we spoke to Sefner Armwood High head football coach Evan Davis. And the topic of conversation, obviously, was his 4-star running back, Gerard Pringle, who now is a Miami commit. And coaches always, speak highly of their players. You don't very often hear a high school coach say bad things about their players, but I really like.
By the way, it's funny you say that, because one of my questions I used to, now it's been taken over by Azubi and the mustache guy. I can't remember his name, but one of the key questions I always used to ask whenever I did these high school coach stories, I'd always say, if he's going to play as a freshman, what does he need to work on the most? Because that's essentially giving a coach a way to say, here's, what I think he needs improvement on. Because if you just say to a coach, a high school coach, like, hey, what does he not do real well? They're not going to answer. But anyway, continue, good sir. I apologize. You've let me interrupt so much today. It's been a joy. This has been a wonderful show. I hate coming on. I hate the morning show, but this morning I'm actually enjoying the show for once. It's remarkable.
I'm letting you get equal time on the interruption meter, but I expect to see comments on YouTube ripping you the way I get.
Oh yeah, listen, they are begging for me to interrupt you. They don't even want to hear you talk.
Anyway, as I was saying, so, coaches obviously always speak very highly of their kids, but the thing that I like more, like, we know Gerard Pringle is a good player. We know he's fast. He runs 10-5 in the 100. I mean, he's, this is an explosive kid and a very good take from Miami. The thing that I liked the most was Davis's comments about his character. Called him an alpha dog, a leader. And he talked about how he's always encouraging and pushing the other players on his team to be at the same mental level as him in all aspects of the game. And I like that.
Wrong again, Ferman. Wrong again.
What are you talking about?
That shouldn't be the thing you like most. The thing you should have liked most, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but continue, and then I'll tell you.
Let me finish, please. I like the fact that he's talking to us about what he perceives as a leader, okay? And let me tell you something. Not enough kids come into college ready to be leaders. Like I said to Popo, when we were talking to Popo yesterday, I asked him, I said, who's the leader of this defense? Because people are always asking me on the message boards, who's the leader of the offense? Who's the leader of the defense? And I'm like, all right, well, the offense is clearly going to be Cam Ward. But like when I have to name who the leader is going to be on defense, I mean, that's not Reuben Bain. That's not his deal. He's a quiet dude that just goes out there and kicks ass. Okay. I mean, like, who's the leader of the defense? I asked Popo, I said, who's the leader of the defense? Just for a frame of reference. And he talked about Francisco being a leader, but the thing is that, like, not too many kids. There's not too many candidates, is my point. You got 85 kids on this team, and the leaders are two guys that came in the portal, one of which who just arrived as a quarterback, the other one who's in his second year as a linebacker. Okay, none of the guys that were recruited into this program are being identified as leaders. Okay, this is not something to take for granted. Kids don't come into college all the time with these leadership skills, and I like the fact that Coach Davis, told us that Gerard Pringle is showing those type of leadership skills in high school. All right, Matt. So what were you going to say?
There's a reason why young guys usually aren't leaders on a team like Miami. It's because to be a leader, you can't suck. To be a leader, you have to play. To be a leader, you have to make plays, and that feeds into it. So really, when you say the thing you like most is his leadership, no, the thing you should like most is his quality as a player for now, and the leadership can come after you make plays. And what you should like most, and what the fans
likes to lead,
and what the fans should like most on the show about what the coach said, as opposed to what whoever that guy is sitting next to me said, is the 10-5-40. Okay, and I'm not talking about that he's fast. I'm talking about really interesting insight from the coach on what that 10-5-40 means, because the coach said that he gets a lot of guys, and he's seen a lot of guys who come into high school who are explosively fast from the get-go. And he constantly sees them trying to just run around the defensive ends. They never want to run between the tackles. Now, what's really interesting about this guy is he wasn't fast coming into high school. He had to learn how to pound his way between the tackles and make a few yards here and there. And now he's acquired that speed. Okay? And so now he still is literally trained and has learned to run between the tackles first, look for that hole, and then he's gone up the gut for 75-yard touchdowns, right? That's literally what the coach said, which is very unusual for a really, really fast young man at this stage of high school. So that, to me, was what I like the most. If you like him being a leader, that's great, but you're just wrong, because you got to make the plays first. The leadership comes after you make the plays if you have that type of personality. And it's great he has that type of personality, but what's most important is he's got to be a playmaker first and foremost, then be a leader. That's just my perception on it.
All right, a couple other recruiting stories I'll touch on here real quick. We got a story with 2026 Bellflower, California, St. John Bosco edge guy, Dutch Horisk. He's a guy that is one of many, many prospects that Miami is looking at out on the West Coast. Mario Cristobal, having spent his time at Oregon, obviously has great connections on the West Coast, and he is not looking to give those up. And Horisk is one of the guys that they are looking at, and he has now gotten a Miami offer. So you can check out what he's saying about the Hurricanes. Another guy from Chaminade, a four-star receiver by the name of Jabari Brady. He came out to practice, and he likes what he's seeing and how Miami is showing faith in his old teammate JoJo Trader, and that JoJo Trader is probably going to get a chance to contribute as a true freshman, and that is increasing his interest in Miami. So you could check that story out as well. And then we also have a story with a top 25 defensive lineman from North Carolina by the name of Aiden Davis. He's a 2026 prospect, getting a lot of attention from the Hurricanes, and we update where all of that stands as well this morning. And we will continue to have plenty of recruiting coverage coming your way. We're working on monitoring where basketball is going in the transfer portal. We'll start having more of that coming your way. So a lot going on at the U. Spring practice resumes on Thursday, and we will be back out there Thursday morning bringing you detailed reports on everything going on out on the practice field. So that's going to do it for this morning for Good Morning CaneSport. If you are on YouTube right now, you like this show, you like this channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It does help us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please head on over to the website, join our community of fans, join our website. We take great pride in what we do every single day to enhance your fan experience, and we would love to have you on board with us as we move forward this year and then obviously later into the season. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time.